Milo's going crazy right now in the cat condo. It's just, why now? Say hi, Milo. Hi guys, and welcome back to my kitchen. If you are new here, my name is Kaylee, and today in my kitchen we are going to be making Thai Scotch Eggs. Yes, you heard that right. These are Thai-inspired Scotch eggs. I love Thai food, and every Brit loves Scotch eggs, so why not combine the two? So the idea of a Scotch egg, if you haven't had one before, it's a beautiful soft-boiled egg wrapped in some ground meat. We're gonna be using ground pork today. Then it's breaded and either fried or baked, and it is amazing. This recipe is actually inspired by Pepper Thai. Like I said, I love Thai food. I make it a ton at home. I've already got lots of videos on my channel with different Thai recipes. So when I heard she was coming out with a cookbook, I had to grab it right away. One of my favorite recipes from that cookbook has to be these Thai-inspired Scotch eggs. There's also other great things, but fusion is just so cool. So I thought today I would take the time to share this recipe with you. It's an awesome lunch. You can serve it alongside some salad or some fried rice. For today's recipe, we're gonna be starting off with just 4 eggs. Pepper Thai actually recommends to cook the eggs and boil the water at the same time. So I've got a pot of water back here. It's not at a boil. Heat is totally off. I'm gonna carefully drop in my eggs, and then together, I'm gonna raise that to about a medium-high heat and bring that to a boil. Once it's boiling, I'm going to remove that from the heat and actually cover the eggs for about 3 minutes. If you're worried that that's not enough time to cook an egg, don't worry, that's just the first cook. We later on are gonna coat it and do a lot of other fancy things, and then we'll finish off the cook. Once the eggs are done, then we're gonna super carefully remove those from the water and then put them directly into an ice bath. I need those to stop cooking as soon as possible and come down to a cool temperature so they can be peeled. Now when it comes to peeling my eggs, and you may have seen this when we did the soft boiled egg experiment, because I realized it is a marathon and not a sprint. You definitely want to take your time and make sure that you're peeling them gently. Otherwise it's super easy to lose big chunks of eggs in the process. I also find that running the egg under cold water while peeling is super helpful because the water will kind of push the shell away. For today's purposes, I've got my ice bath here and I'm just using the water in here, and that seems to do just fine. I also find that cracking the shell is super helpful too. So gently with a spoon, do that all over the shell. Emphasis on gently. Once the eggs are peeled, you can chill them in the fridge until you're ready to wrap them. What makes this a Thai Scotch egg is the different herbs and aromatics that we're gonna be using. We're gonna be adding some flavors that aren't traditional to a Scotch egg, but they are incredible. In terms of fresh ingredients, all you need are the eggs, ground pork, some hot chilies, a shallot, and cilantro. I'm actually gonna quickly go ahead and prep everything for our recipe today. All we wanna do is carefully slice up our hot chili, slice our shallots, and then for our cilantro, we're actually gonna separate this. We're gonna separate the leaves from the stems, and we're not throwing out the stem. Do not dare think about throwing out cilantro stems. They are just packed full of flavor. We're actually gonna use those stems in the ground pork, so keep those separate and finely dice those. Okay, it is time for us to season our ground pork. Before we give this a mix, we're gonna preheat our oven to 400 degrees. You can do Scotch eggs a few different ways. You can either bake them or fry them. Today we're going to be baking them, following along with Pepper Thai's recipe, so preheating that to 400. We're gonna be doing 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, salt, and pepper, followed by 1 tablespoon of our cilantro stems. See, nothing goes to waste. You gotta use those stems. There's so much flavor in here. Once the meat has been thoroughly mixed up and all herbs and spices are evenly distributed, it's time to break this up into 4 equal parts. That way I've got roughly equal size meatballs that I'll be able to flatten out and use to cover our eggs. Now each of our little meatballs we want to flatten out. So I usually just start with my hand and start flattening that way. I do often use a little bit of plastic wrap, just that way it's not sticking to everything. And when I'm flattening it out, I do want to keep it in a rather circular shape. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I found that actually flattening it out, similar to how you would a dumpling, so making sure the edges are a little bit thinner, actually works better. The idea is that this needs to be wide enough to wrap all the way around the egg, and there will be a little bit of overlap. So if the edges here are thinner, once they overlap, everything should be relatively uniform. With the meat now flattened out into our little patties and our eggs chilled, it is time to carefully start to wrap those. So one at a time, we're going to be taking our pork, which I've got here on my little plastic wrap too. That actually comes in handy as well when you're starting to wrap. And I'm going to take one of my eggs and just carefully put that towards the middle. You can use the plastic wrap to kind of help you guide it around. As I mentioned, there will be some overlap. That's okay. You're just going to carefully use your hands to distribute the meat so it's as even as you can get it. You just want to make sure that the meat connects and all of the seams are closed. I know that sounds weird, but we just want to go around and carefully make sure that none of the eggs is exposed. It is time to set up our dredging station. I've got some panko breadcrumbs here, some all-purpose flour, and an egg. With these three things, we're going to carefully coat our beautiful Scotch egg. Starting with scrambling up the egg, and we're gonna keep that in a bowl. We'll have a bowl with panko and one with the flour. We're gonna super carefully take our eggs, coat them in our flour, then in our egg wash, then the panko, then put those on our baking sheet. Just an ungreased baking sheet is perfect. All right, now that our beautiful Scotch eggs have been breaded, it is time to put those into the oven. So it's preheated to 400 degrees. We're gonna pop those in there until they're nice and golden brown. About 18 to 20 minutes, just depending on your cooking setup. While our Scotch eggs are finishing up in the oven, it is time to get started on the sauce. We're gonna be covering our Scotch eggs with a beautiful tamarind sauce. The first component that we need is actually some crispy shallots. So I've got a small saucepan here. I'm going to raise that to about a medium-low heat. And to make crispy shallots, you just need shallots and some oil. I'm gonna be using vegetable oil today. One thing that is really important to note is that these are not deep fried shallots. You actually put the oil and the shallots in the pot at the same time. So I'm gonna start with about 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil today. And then I've got my whole shallot here. It was a nice big one because I really like these. And we wanna continue to stir those and keep an eye just watching the shallots get nice and brown and crispy. If you notice that the color starts to get a little bit too dark, you can take it off the heat. But do make sure that it's not hot oil that your shallots are being put into. They actually rise to the same temperature together. Fun fact. Wow, these shallots smell amazing. Woo! Now while those are crisping up, it's gonna take about 10 minutes total for those to become nice and crispy. Let's quickly touch on the other ingredients that we're gonna be using in our tamarind sauce. We've got some red pepper powder or red chili powder, brown sugar, tamarind paste, and fish sauce. As always, all the measurements will be down in the description box below. Most of these things you can find in store. The hardest one to find will probably be the tamarind paste. This is one of these random ingredients. Ryan does this thing where he'll go to the grocery store and find something I've never heard of, and he'll say, make something with this to force me to be creative. So we happen to have tamarind paste in the house anyway, but just keep an eye out on it. You might be able to find it in an Asian grocery store. Once the shallots are nice and crispy, we're gonna remove those from the oil and put them on a plate with a little bit of paper towel to soak up any residual oil. That oil we're just going to set to the side, and we'll use this exact pot, we don't have to clean it out, to start building our sauce. Okay, so over a medium heat, we're gonna add in 1 teaspoon of our chili powder. And we just wanna cook that for about a minute until it becomes fragrant. There's still a little bit of that residual oil from our shallots. That smells good. Okay, once that's toasty, it's time for us to add in 5 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of fish sauce, and 3 tablespoons of tamarind paste. We're also gonna add in a 1/4 cup of water. And mix that up. Now, as our sauce is mixing, we wanna cook that until it thickens up a little bit. I think it's time to take out our Scotch eggs, so let's take a look at those. I'm gonna carefully transfer these so they can cool a little bit while our sauce finishes up. Now, as the sauce is out at a boil, we're gonna reduce it for about 2 to 3 minutes. Once it's reduced, we'll turn off the heat, Stir in our crispy shallots, and then it's go time. All right, I am very excited to dig in. I love these Scotch eggs either with a salad, so a base of arugula, or some kind of Thai salad. Papaya salad would go along with this so wonderfully, and I made that on the channel before, so if you want to take a look at that recipe, I'll link that one there as well. I've also eaten these with some fried rice on the side. It's super versatile. You can do whatever you want. So let's grab one of these. I've topped off our Scotch eggs with some fresh cilantro, some hot chilies. Of course, it's Thai food. You gotta add the heat. And then our beautiful tamarind sauce. This is only about half of the sauce. Feel free to add even more if you want. That's also amazing on rice. Oh, wow. I mean, this bite just looks so flavorful. 100% of the time, this slaps so good. That tamarind sauce is the perfect mix of tangy and sweet. It really nicely balances out the spice from those chilies. The crispy shallots in there add a little bit more flavor and a little bit of texture. It's honestly incredible. I freaking love this dish. If you have any requests or recommendations on any Thai recipes, or any recipes for that matter, you can leave those down below in the comment section. If you did like this video, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. It helps out my channel a lot. And of course, if you recreate this dish, tag me on social media so I can see your recreation. Well, that's it for now. Thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.